Exactly.
Now, how many
indeed.
ridings do you need to take across Canada?
Well, we have 308 electoral districts across Canada. So you can see what has happened now in our national government when you had the Conservative Party having 123 seats, and the coalition of the Bloc, as well as the NDP and the Liberals, having 160 and change. Well, then this coalition government, which we support, is now basically taking over control of our Parliament. Well, unfortunately, Prime Minister Harper applied to the Governor General, and they suspended Parliament until January to try to hold on to the reins. But what is actually happening right now, even in our existing political system of a minority government, is that we see the fractionation that exists across our nation. And the nation is fractionated because we don't know where to trust. We, like the United States, who has Democrats and Republicans. In Canada, we have Liberals and Conservatives, and the NDP, and then the Green Party now. We have these major groups that we're basically being, do I choose the apple or do I choose the green apple? Each groups have been usurped. So in order to get yourself out there as a nation, we need 308 electoral district associations formed, and we need to come together as a unified mass of Canadians, for Canadians, with a unified plan to bring it back together. And the only plan, and you know, as with my background training, and when I decided to walk into this world, realizing that the nation is crying for help, that I could go to the Conservative Party, or I could have gone with the Liberal Party, the popular parties of the day, but none of them are speaking the truth here. None of them are coming forward on these tough issues that no one wants to talk about. Well, unfortunately, the only one telling the truth and talking about the truth with a clear plan of how to go get this back for us. And I can't say it more strongly. You know, when we have previous prime ministers in Canada like William Lyon Mackenzie King, who was elected 5 times to lead our nation, who created for us the greatest asset we have as a nation, our Bank of Canada, that we have not used that Bank of Canada, that we've given up our right, that we only use that to fund about 2% of our financial infrastructure, and we borrow all the money from the private banking, and we've gone into this inordinate debt, which we'll never get out of, which is putting our country at the behest of these multinational corporations, as well as the international bankers. We have given this up freely. We have the laws in the land in place. We simply have to go back to our Bank of Canada and fund our infrastructure ourselves, like we did to get out of the Depression, like we did during the Second World War, like we did to create the St. Lawrence Seaway, like we did to put the Trans-Canada National Highway. We did this all on an $18 billion debt. Now we have over $500 billion in the interest payments alone each year, and there's no person out there who's got a Canadian flag on his or her forehead that collects that money and puts it back into our economy. We are being sucked dry by our own free will. It's happening in the United States, and unfortunately, until we take that free will back and bring that control of our currency and our credit back to the Canadian people who it belongs to, then we'll never get out of this situation. And not one of the governments of today are looking at that one issue. They make promises on money they don't have. We have students now coming into an educational system and entering a debt trap. $3 billion in debt for university or college students in over a year's period of time. Well, you know, if we weren't paying over $60 billion in compound interest to others than ourselves, we can cover these things that society needs and develop a very prosperous and strong nation. But unfortunately, when you give up these controls, you lose the nations, and that's what people like William Lyon Mackenzie King said. That's why people like the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds have said in the past, you know, give me control of the currency of the country, and I don't care who makes the laws, and because they recognize this is the core of the power. And we have given up that power. So we can argue about our oil, we can argue about our natural resources, our metals, our manufacturing, our industry, our Food and Drug Administration, or our automotive industry. We can argue about all these little pieces of the puzzle, but the bottom line is, unless you want to control your own currency and its issuance and its credit, and without that control, nationhood really is on the verge of monopolization, and it is. And great leaders in society, not only in our own country, in the United States as well, have recognized that. And unfortunately, when they try to reclaim these financial powers from these people, the international bankers, it's not an easy task, but it can be done. It just needs the nation's will to stand up and say, no, we're going to do it this way, and it's for our best interests. And if our government's not going to do it, we need to go take our government's control over, because the system is sick now, and the system needs help. And the only way the system can be helped is by the people coming together to impose that help. Because if they could do it, they would have done it by now. It's been over 35 years. Our nation is in a financial devastation place it was not destined to be. It does not have to be there, and we can return it back by returning to our own Bank of Canada and our own control of our currency. And this is something the United States has been wanting to do for some time. You wouldn't be in this mess right now, because when you create an economic currency in a country that's based on a debt economy, it's an ever-expanding debt. It's fiat currency, and there is no real reserves. And one person borrowing $20,000 becomes the means to lend $100,000 to other people, and it just explodes up. You're creating money out of nowhere. The interest payments alone is making somebody rich, but it's not going back to the society as a whole.
Exactly.
And this is a problem again. But this again is, you might as well go back to links between the Babylonian Empire, the Roman Empire, or for that matter, slavery in the time of Egyptian days. Our nations have basically given up control to these users, and usury is in control. And we all see it that we don't have a choice. No one's talking about this. Get control of the nation's currency. Pay yourself interest. If you have $100,000 in the bank, you're not going to go borrow $100,000 from a private group and go pay them compound interest for money that belongs to you. If we have the goodwill of a nation for the private banking industry to lend our nation billions of dollars that we pay them interest for, then when our own country can own that debt and pay it ourselves and lend it to ourselves, why don't we pay ourselves the interest and use that money that we save to go build our infrastructure, pay for our social programs, take care of our seniors, take care of our future students, and provide the services that we need as a nationhood? That would be great. Canada, as a nation, 80% of our economy is actually generated by internal domestic transactions, with Canadians producing, buying, selling among ourselves. So we really have the infrastructure here, but we've bought into this international global elitist globalization program that the World Bank has said, well, to be part of this group, we kind of frown upon nations using their own banks. You want to put it into the private markets, and this is the Milton Friedman Chicago Group stuff that came out in 1974, which has made the economic situation around the world a catastrophe. And profiting the few, robbing us blind, and what recently transpired, which has been transpiring in the United States for the last couple of years, and just most recently with the blow-up, with the entire financial and economic crisis that's been going on. This is bank robbery, ladies and gentlemen, and we are allowing it to happen.
Exactly.
And so. And everything else, and I mean everything else within societies, no matter which direction you want to go around this 360-degree turn, every other nuance and piece and social program and sovereignty and nationhood and economics and jobs and manufacturing and industry and every part of sector of society, if you do not control your currency, if you do not control your credit, if you don't have that forward by enough of people, then nothing else matters. So before you start arguing about changing the world or projecting your foreign policies over here or over there, the nation itself has to gain control of its independence and its sovereign nation, and its sovereignty is a function of its currency and its credit, and without that you have no nation. It's just a ruse. And without that, you are now under control of those who have control of the monetary reins. And we are empowering them by our own interest that we pay as nations when we do not have to. Take one country like Canada, we take that back, and we in North America and Canada have the only means to do so. We actually still have our bank that's owned for by another people, Bank of Canada. We have the laws in place so we can use it. All we have to do is basically have our government, we're taking this debt back to our Bank of Canada. We're going to fund our infrastructure municipally, federally, and provincially from loans from this government, and the interest payments, if we take the interest, is going to come back to the Canadian people to go back into our society to help build our nation strong and get us out of this ever-going compound interest debt that was basically is designed to destroy us, forcing us to sell out our infrastructure and lose our nationhood and control of our future. And that's a simple answer. And if I saw one other party in Canada going down that path, I'd be there with bells and whistles on, but there are none other. But that's good because that means if you go to a smaller party,